There are 3 new names Alabama recruitniks better get to know very soon.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, HSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and I'll tell you about FanDuel in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making this first listen every single day. You guys are the best, dogs. Jimmy, some guys will be making their announcement today. That'll be Kamari Brooks and Roman Voss, and we've talked about them a lot, so I don't really see the need to get into that until they actually commit to Alabama, which I don't. I think there's a 50% chance on Voss. I think there's a 10% chance on Brooks. Agree or disagree?
I'll bump up the chance on Brooks, but to like no more than 20%. I mean, I think this is going to be Georgia. I do, but Alabama gave him something to think about. But no, I would say Kamari Brooks to Georgia. Almost certainly. Roman Voss, I'm leaning more and more to Minnesota here. Now that my mind can change, we're recording this well before Roman Voss is announcing his decision, so I could get texts or learn something that would change my mind. I'm leaning a little Minnesota here. You know, a couple things that I want to explain because we're going to talk about this a lot with the new RPMs to Alabama because it's related. But first of all, Minnesota should be signing and already have commitments from the number 2, 3, and 4 player in Minnesota. Roman Voss would make all 4. And they've also got the number 1 player in Wisconsin. So I'm getting the impression that Minnesota's recruiting, a little better than normal this cycle. Why is that? My guess would be rev share and NIL. Let's remember, Minnesota's a Power 4 team. They have just as much money to spend on rev share as Alabama. Probably the exact same amount or very close to it in that $15 to $16 million range is what Minnesota is likely spending on football, about the same as Alabama. Well, this is why their spending is a little different while signing Roman Voss is hard. If you think about it, who's Alabama's highest priorities? Xavier Griffin, C.D. Morgan, Kroll, there's others, right? These are the big Tank Jones. Who's Minnesota's top priority? Roman Voss. They don't have to spend on Voss what Alabama's got to spend on Griffin, Kroll, Morgan, right? If you think about it, they have a lot more available money for a player like Voss than Alabama in this sense. Alabama's got some super high priority kids, even Max Sutter at tight end. So, for that reason, I'm guessing, and again, this is a guess. This isn't, sometimes we get scoop. Heck, a lot of times we get scoop. I don't have scoop. I just have one text from one guy that might say, I think this can be Minnesota. Just telling you all that. I don't normally tell you guys that. But I'm just saying my Minnesota prediction is kind of largely based on NIL and rev share and how it's working in the new world and how rev share in this instance probably working against Alabama. As it relates to Roman Voss.
Well, you're right. Roman Voss would clearly, I think without a doubt, be their highest rated commit. They don't have anybody in the top 247. They have number 277 on the composite, who is an offensive lineman. They also did beat Alabama. Beat is using the term loosely. They beat Alabama for Ryan Estrada, the running back. But I'm not sure Alabama was making – it's hard to know. I think he was in a group of running backs Alabama was looking at.
That's a great example, though, of what we're talking about here, right? Ryan Estrada would have been Alabama's number 2 back.
Yeah.
And probably not
the
biggest –
second-rated guy.
Yeah, probably not the biggest rev share offer from Alabama, right? He's not going to get Kroll money. Minnesota, he's their number 1 running back.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how – and I know this is a lot to take in. But I've been reading a lot of comments. I've been online all day with Alabama football recruiting. A lot of comments online and on Twitter. And people are not, as predicted, adjusting to this new reality of what the situation is. And with rev share, it really is overnight, sort of like the NFL cap hitting college football.
Yeah.
And we've never had this before. Even in the NIL, yeah, you could play there was no cap. There was no cap. Now there's a cap. Now, it's complicated because there's also NIL. But keep in mind, all NIL deals have to pass NIL Go before it can be an official contract. And I don't know ultimately what that means myself. I just know that the rev share and its cap is what's changing recruiting overnight. The colleges have. I've talked to college coaches. I have talked to them. And what I'm sharing with y'all is not Jimmy Strange tangent. This is the
That's my gig.
Exactly. Luke's the one that gets to point those out.
Okay. So, but here are three guys that are all very good players, but they're mostly 3 stars. There are some sneaky 4-star rankings in here, but it's 3 guys that are very good that Alabama apparently would take. They've been crystal balled to Alabama, all 3 of these guys. One of them really raised an eyebrow for me, but I'm going to read them out. Javari Barnett out of Tampa Bay. What is interesting about him, he's committed to Illinois. So that makes me think immediately like, Illinois' got some rough and tumble running backs, at least historically, and especially now with Brett Bielema. So I'm down with getting him. I'm down. Put me down. You get him and Kroll, that's a good running back tandem. Okay, then there's Owen Cabell. We have talked about him. We like him. He's 6'3", ran a 4.4 at Bama's camp recently, and that makes me like him even more. And I feel like he's a nice complement to maybe a Brian Williams Jr. who commits on July 1st, and then potentially a Cedarian Morgan who commits on July 2nd. That would be 3 one superstar wide receiver, 1 very, very good wide receiver, and then 1 very good. I can take that. Okay. I'm not reaching yet. And then there's Rael Kelly from Winton Woods, who's committed to Rutgers right now. And again, if we're going to get somebody like Jari Edwards and we get this guy also at safety, now I'm not saying they're going to necessarily play the same position. I'm just saying in the broad scheme of things, they're playing the same position right now. And if you're telling me, okay, you get Jari Edwards, who may be the best safety in the country or second best, and then you get this guy who, by the way, was committed to a Big Ten school that isn't god-awful anymore. I mean, Rutgers isn't terrible. So I'm like, yeah, I like all 3 of these guys. I'm not having to convince myself their takes. And especially in this new landscape, I'm down with it.
Yeah, man, I have a ton to say about these guys. Been really poking around now. We've mentioned Barnett on the show in the past. We've mentioned Cabell on the show in the past. We've never talked about Rael Kelly, so we'll talk about him a lot now. But I want to start with what I was talking about with Voss a little bit. I mean, no one else on any of the sites or anywhere is talking about this but us. But I do think that the collection of these 3 guys has a lot to do with the new world I'm talking about. Rosters have moved. You used to have 85 scholarship players. Now you can have 105 scholarship players. So the scholarship roster, you can take in more players, but there is a financial cap. Okay, there's a financial cap right around $16 million for Alabama, a little under that actually. That means all of the players on the team have to be paid less than $16 million total. You cannot mathematically go. Y'all play with the numbers. Y'all all have calculators. Let's say Alabama's rev share football number is about 15.3 million. Divide that by 105. It's not a lot when you've got to pay quarterbacks $600,000 and $700,000 of it or more. Okay, so if y'all want to sign a bunch of 5 stars and 4 stars, and I do. I know Jimmy does. I think Luke does. I don't want to speak for him. I think Luke does. If y'all want to sign a bunch of 5 stars and 4 stars, I do too. That means in addition to them, to fill out your roster, you've got to take a lot of inexpensive players to make the math work. Okay? Otherwise, if you're like, nope, don't want them. I just want nobody but 5 stars and 4 stars. Okay, that's fine. We're going to have a team of about 60 guys because that's all of them that you can fit under the rev share cap because they all are getting offers from other schools and their rev share. So that's the teaching moment here, teaching what this new world's going to be like. So when I see that Steve Wiltfong has bombed all three of these guys to Alabama, and, he doesn't miss a lot, and Tim Watts and Bone over there at BOL have hinted that their RPMs may not be far behind here on these three. They're kind of waiting to see is this visit high stuff, because that happens too, or did Steve, jump the gun a little bit, which he's done before, but not a lot. I mean, I'm a big fan of Wiltfong, and most of the time he gets us right. I'm expecting, based on what I'm reading, that these three guys will all end up at Alabama. I'm ready to talk about all three. I just want to give a general guideline as to, wait a minute, we haven't really talked about these guys. How is this happening? Is this indicating that something's wrong? No. This is just the new post-house settlement world as it relates to recruiting. Y'all watch on signing day. Look at who the number 1, 2, and 3 classes are. There's going to be a lot of 3 stars on their list too.
And I bet you're right about that, Jimmy. And speaking of things that I like that involve betting, been trying to work on my segues. FanDuel. Look, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the greens, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, or, as I mentioned, go to that app, and you will love FanDuel, and it is awesome. And that's a Jimmy Stein guarantee. I'm putting oh my God, I don't know what I did. Jimmy Stein. Okay, so speaking of teams, I wanted to talk a little bit about SEC recruiting. Okay, you mentioned that when the dust all settles, there'll be a lot of teams with a lot more 3 stars than you think. Now, I'm just pulling up the composite rankings right now.
Yep.
And these are misleading because USC has 30 commits. Here we are in the middle of June or end of June.
Are you looking at their list of commits or just see 30?
Well, I'm seeing 30, and I see that they have 10 3 stars, 19 4 stars, 1 5-star, and my bet is their list is going to change dramatically. But I really want to focus on the SEC.
So they have 10 3 stars. So I want people to focus on that.
Yeah,
a whole third of their class are 3-star prospects, and they're USC with a lot of, quote, money to spend, right? 1/3 of their class are 3 stars. We have to stop thinking that Alabama lives in some sort of a vacuum. We're all in this pool together.
Now, then there's A&M. They're leading the SEC right now. They've got 19 commits, but now A&M is in a different stratosphere than a lot of places money-wise. They have a 5-star, 16 4s, and 2 3s. My bet is they've already had some of their big swings, and they might get some more. They might get some more 5 stars, maybe a 4-star or 2. But my bet is they finish up this class with mostly 3 stars. That's my guess. Now LSU, they only have 10 commits, only 1 3-star, 2 5-stars, and 7 4s. That sounds a lot like Alabama's class kind of right now.
And we're so similarly situated to LSU. I don't know if people realize that, but I mean, in terms of financially, rev share, NIL, we're similarly situated to LSU. And we also have a similar line of thinking. I think Saban and Brian Kelly, Kalen DeBoer and Brian Kelly, I think are similar thinkers in terms of how they put this stuff together.
All right, here's one. Georgia, 19 commits, 1 5, 13 4s, 4 3s, and then one that's not any of those things. So that tells you, I mean, look, Georgia's not a get a lot of 3 stars kind of dude, as we all know. So they already have 4, and they also have one that's unranked.
Indicative of what we're talking about.
Correct.
Indicative of what we're talking. And by the way, I think this summer in June and July, July now, June's almost over. June, July, I think a lot of the 5-star, 4-star stuff will be over. I think a lot of that, those guys will be sort of done and committed. Yeah. And then throughout the fall, you'll see a lot of programs, including Alabama, add some 3s throughout the fall as they find guys, because boy, it's gold to find some 3-star type kid that ends up panning out right now. That's recruiting gold.
Okay, Texas, 2 5s. They just got Richard Wesley today, who's another edge. That's important to Alabama because maybe it gets them off of Xavier Griffin a little more. But it also means Oregon didn't get Wesley, who famously committed to them earlier, so they may put more pressure on Tank Jones. Who knows what's going to happen there? But Texas has 2 5s, 7 4s, and 6 3s.
6 3s. The richest program in college football is Texas.
Alabama, before everybody has a fit, oh my God, y'all are only talking about 3 stars. 1 5, 6 4s, and 1 3. Yes, 3 3-stars just got crystal ball to us, so that number may rise significantly. It also may rise on the 4-star, 5-star level when a Xavier Crowell, when a C.D. Morgan, when a Xavier Griffin, when a Roman Voss, any of those guys, Max Sutter. So just bear with us a second here. Florida, 13 commits, 7 4s and 6 3s. Tennessee, 9 commits, 1 4 and 4. So, I mean, you're seeing a trend here. Now, one other thing I wanted to bring up, and I bring it up because it's an arch rival and also because it's SEC recruiting, and SEC still doing super in recruiting, there's no doubt. But the Auburn situation is incredibly intriguing right now. They just lost Shadarius Tootle. He flipped from Auburn to Georgia. It doesn't look like this is the kind of thing that he's going to flip back. They lost the Garrett kid from down in Mobile area. Well, I guess he's in Louisiana now. But he flipped to I don't know. Is he even flipped? I don't know.
I think he just decommitted and opened up his recruiting. He's got a weird situation.
But then some other folks that Auburn thought they really had good shots with, apparently they're not going to end up with. It is their recruiting situation. I'm not going to call it dire because some things can turn around. It feels like, and again, just perusing their message boards, talking to some folks, trying to get a feel for what's actually happening. It feels like Auburn has been either caught with their pants down a little bit on this whole new era of recruiting, or that they sort of misjudged this whole thing, that they didn't approach it correctly. Because again,
a little early for celebrating for Alabama fans. Because,
no, it is. And
what happens now when you miss on some targets, and things are looking bad, you've just freed up rev share money. Money that they'd sort of budgeted for other kids can now be moved to, hey, these are the only 2 we have left. We can push chips even further into the table. So don't celebrate yet. If you're the Alabama fan that wants to celebrate Auburn's lack of success, I wouldn't celebrate until ink hits the paper in December, because again, if they're missing out on some targets, that frees up more money for some other guys, and we are going head to head with them for some pretty big names.
Totally agree. I think you're spot on. I will also say this, that I've gotten the feeling more and more that this is I didn't think it was a sink or swim year for Hugh so much coming into this year. I feel like it may be sink or swim now. It's feeling more and more like that. Yep. And I also get the feeling, again, call me crazy, but just putting some pieces together, that even if Hugh Freeze sinks, he's going to be a successful sinker, because he's going to get a nice buyout, because that's just been the way of the world, especially at Auburn. But
yeah, he's got some expectations now he hadn't had before the last couple of years. I mean, I think Auburn fans are expecting to win this fall. Now, how you want to define win is fine, but I would say, and I hate picking out a specific number because it's so dumb, because what if you say he's got to win 8 games? Well, what happens if you win 7 games and in the 8th game they lose because of a bad call? Or what if they only win 7 games, but 2 of the wins are over Alabama and Georgia? That's why It's so dumb to say that there's a certain number of games. It's more about the direction of the program than it is about a win total.
Hey, if he wins 9 games and he loses by 30 at home to Georgia and Alabama, it ain't going to make things any better. So, I mean, it goes both ways. But I'm just saying that I'm looking at the SEC on the whole, and I'm seeing more 3-stars in there, even at a place like Texas, even at a place like Georgia. So I'm not – Jimmy and I aren't here to, like, assuage your fears about, oh, God, we got 3 stars, crystal ball to us. That means sign of the apocalypse. I feel like you have to take those guys in. First of all, those guys are all pretty good, and not
Yeah.
all 3 stars are created equal. Secondly,
I've got positive things to say about all 3 as players, by the way.
there's also going to be a slew of some big names, particularly 3 to 4 5 stars that Alabama may get within the next 2 weeks. So everybody, hold your horses. Now, I'll say this about some recruiting stuff too. There has been some blowback on our pod, some comments like people are like, hey, I'm tired of y'all telling us commits are coming and we haven't gotten a lot. Fair enough. I'm just telling you, if y'all will just give us 2 more, if in 2 weeks.
Just got one yesterday,
Yeah,
and
but if in
might
2
get
weeks,
one today. And
what did I
some at
say
the end of
yesterday, Jimmy? If
4.
I
You said
if we
4.
don't-
4
said
by
if we
July
don't have-
4th.
If we don't have 4 by July 4th, I'll just quit talking about recruits coming.
You're already counting Finch as 1, right?
Yeah, that counts because I did it before that.
So 3
Dang
to
right
go.
that
3 to go. And I feel pretty good about several that have announcement dates, to say nothing of the 3 today that were
I
just
feel very
RPM
good
by
about 8
Wolf.
guys right now. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel good about 8 guys. That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
I gotta find a better way to say that I feel good about 8 guys, and that's a good feeling. I've got to something different. Got to work that self out there.
It's Raining Men by the Weather Girls.
You'll never forget who sings that now, will you?
No, I didn't even know until you mentioned about 4 shows ago. Now that song comes up every show, and I'd totally forgotten who sings it. I would have said the Pointer Sisters. Boy, would that have been?
Oh God, that
would have been a
I don't
terrible.
think the Pointer Sisters would stoop so low.
I'm just saying, if I was playing trivia in a bar,
Yeah,
and that came up before you reminded me that it was the Weather Girls, I'd have been going, Pointer Sisters, Pointer Sisters. No,
but it is weird how I can remember stuff like that. And by the way, I'm in Savannah still. If anybody's in Savannah and wants to come see what'll be Monday tomorrow, today, whatever. If you want to see the giant Forsyth fountain being removed, our company is doing it. And so we're going to take it for restoration. It's probably the most iconic fountain in the country. But I was talking to my mom.
Was it featured in the Forrest Gump movie? Do you know?
No. But now Forrest Gump, the prettiest street in America is what it's called. It's like West Jones Street.
I've been there before.
That was featured in Forrest Gump.
I knew part of Forrest Gump, like when he was sitting on that bench.
That was in Savannah.
That was in Savannah. So I thought maybe they might have caught the fountain in there. It might have been in the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Could have been in that.
There's no doubt it was. I never saw that, but it's really that's I forget what they call that girl. She's like holding 2 things or something. But anyway, So my grandparents got married in Savannah, and I remembered I came here. I've forgotten that there's a place called the Old Pink House. If you're ever in Savannah, I would highly recommend coming to eat here. It's great. But I'd forgotten I eat there when we had my big thing for my grandparents like 25 years ago. And I was so excited to go with my wife. We went and had a great, I was like, man, I can't believe I hadn't been here before. And Mom said, we called my mom. She was like, yeah, I have been there before. And what's weird is I can remember stupid stuff like the Weather Girls saying it's Raining Men, and I can't remember that I ate at one of the more famous places in all of Savannah. But anyway, let's get back to your roster countdown. And because we're playing catch up here, but go ahead.
I believe, 40 is Keon Keely. How about that? That's a big one. And Keon Keely's never been this high on the roster ranking before. And this is why. He's ready. It took a while, and it did. And I know a lot of people got impatient. Here's a kid who didn't get impatient, Keon Keely. He just kept working. And what happened here, it's really kind of simple. People make it so complicated, but Keon Keely in high school was an edge prospect, a stand-up linebacker who played the game standing up. And he sometimes rushed the passer, or he most of the time rushed the passer. But he did other things against the run and dropping into coverage. And he was 225 or 230 pounds in high school. Well, what happened is once he got to college, as Alabama knew would happen, and I think as Keon knew would happen, here comes significant weight gain. And when that happens, you can no longer play stand-up linebacker. Quick out there, if y'all can, flood our comments with all of the 280-pound stand-up linebackers in the NFL. Go ahead. Tell us who all they are. You probably won't find any, by the way. Spoiler alert. He just got too big and heavy for that. So he had to entirely move positions. He had to go from stand-up linebacker, which right now, for instance, is being played by Quay Russaw. Quay Russaw is playing the position that Keon Keely played in high school and was sort of recruited to play in college. That's Quay Russaw. Quay Russaw weighs about 245 right now, 240. Keon Keely weighs 280 pounds. Okay, so he plays with his hand on the ground. He's still playing a primary pass rush position. He looks ready now. He looks ready to play. He looked good this spring. He looked promising in the fall. I think he's ready. The only reason we won't see a ton of him this fall is LT Overton. I mean, LT Overton's going to play a lot. Jordan Renaud is also going to play a lot too. Those two will act to kind of limit Keon Keely's snaps because they're just a little bit ahead of him. But as you know, LT Overton's a senior, is about to cycle out. I think Keon is going to be a massively significant player for Alabama in 2026, but he will be a significant player for Alabama in 2025. I think we see him a lot with the first team on third downs this fall, because he might even be, even with LT Overton on the team, he might prove to be Alabama's best pass rusher at Bandit this year. So we can finally see Keon Keely as a redshirt sophomore. This is year 3 for him. And we should never be shocked as college football fans when there's a position change and a body change, or if there's just no change at all other than you're changing from high school to college, that it took year 3 to be ready to play. But I know with 5 stars and kids that are ranked like he is, people get impatient and they go, what's wrong? What's wrong? There was never anything wrong. That's why Keon stayed at Alabama, put his head down, went to work. This fall it starts paying off. We have him at 40. He may prove to be even more significant than that and be a player that might belong in the 20s.
I want to tell you something. You want to be one of the more beloved players in Alabama history. Let Keon Keely take off this season. I'm telling you, people have been wanting to latch on to this kid and have been wanting to embrace him and wanting to love him. But to do that, you can be the greatest person in the world, but if you're not if you're not contributing a ton on the field, it's very difficult to do that. Yes, it's great to have a Ryan McGee story or something on Sports Center or on game day when somebody who doesn't contribute a ton, you find out they're just a fabulous human being. That gives you some pride. But in the end, what really makes you love them is the fact that they kick butt for your team. And if Keon Keely can do that this year, I think people are going to flock to this kid, but because everybody is dying for him to be successful. And it doesn't make him a bad person if he's not. I'm just saying it's very difficult to become one of the more – there are not a lot of Rudy Rudigers out there. He didn't do anything at Notre Dame. He got one sack and I think that was even overblown.
He was offsides.
How many other people know about that? How many other people do you know were like some, a walk-on or a 5-star who never really panned out, and you're like, man, that guy was my favorite of all time? No, we just gravitate to the ones who are really, really good and do something awesome. So, man, fingers crossed for Keon Keely, because I'm going to tell you something. If it does work out this year, if the light comes on, or if it all comes together, or if the circumstances are right, whatever it has to be for him, and if he gets near as good as we believe he could be, or the potential showed that he could be in high school, man, he's going to blow up, and everybody's just going to fall out. I still love Mac Jones for a lot of the same reasons that he hung around, But if Mac Jones had not had that year, in 2020, what if Bryce Young had to take over that? We'd forget Mac Jones. I mean, even though he's a good person. It's just the nature of the beast.
Took a year 4 before Mac Jones became the Mac Jones we know in year 4. He was not ready to do that in year 3. Year 1, year 2, if he played, it would have been a disaster. He'd probably tell you that. If somebody asked him that he was not ready to play. Keon Keely didn't play in year 1, weight gain. Didn't play in year 2, position change. Now it's year 3. Now he's ready. If you don't see a ton of Keon this fall, I don't think it's on Keon. I think it's on LT Overton, Jordan Renaud, and other guys that can play the banner position, like Jamarian Latham could still get some snaps there. No one ever talks about him, but Cavante Henry, now known as Tua Henry, he's a guy that we didn't really see in the spring at Bandit because he was hurt, but he's a JUCO that was recruited to play Bandit. He could show up and play some. But But LT Overton should get a tremendous snap share there because he's a fourth-year senior and he's ready to play and show off for the NFL. So we'll primarily see Overton at that spot. I really think 2026 is when Keon Keely becomes a national name, just like he did for himself in recruiting.
Let's do it, Keon. Me, you, and Jimmy. Let's take over the world. All right. That's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.